The two ways of ore formation considered here, namely secondary enrichment and sedimentation, are two of the most important mechanisms in which ore minerals are formed on or enriched by surface processes. Banded iron formations and manganese deposits of the world in their initial stage are the product of sedimentary precipitation, while many gold and silver bonanzas and porphyry copper deposits have been greatly enriched through secondary or supergene enrichment. Earlier theories never considered that tiny bacteria could also be an unseen agent in these two processes of ore formation. However, now bacterial role is being accepted widely for both secondary enrichment and sedimentary precipitation. In this lesson, we shall begin with sedimentary precipitates, followed by secondary enrichment, and considering what role bacteria has to play in these two processes, as also in some others. The theme of these deposits resulting from processes operating at or near the surface is too vast to be considered in detail. However, an attempt will be made to present salient features of these under the following heads. Number 1, we shall consider sedimentary iron and manganese deposits. Number 2, copper, lead and zinc deposits. Third, phosphorites. Fourth, secondary enrichment or supergene enrichment deposits. Fifth, microbial ore deposition. Ores of iron and manganese are the most important ones in this category. Generally, both are autochthonous, constitute chemical precipitates, occur in the same general area, and are dominant in the Precambrian formations, in particular in the greenstone belt. Whatever might have been the actual mechanism, these spectacular iron ore formations, including manganese deposits to some extent, were not repeated on such large scales again in the geological history. They are believed to have formed in a geosynclinal environment, as also by volcanic exhalations. Since their formation as chemical precipitates, they were enriched by later supergene processes and further refined and toughened by metamorphic or metasomatic processes. Of these, banded iron ore formations are huge bodies, and existing iron ore mines, mostly open cast mines, are some of the largest mining enterprises in the world. Precambrian BIFs have been subdivided into 4 phases. Deposited in shallow water are represented by iron ores consisting of hematite or magnetite, alternating with layers of silica, that is chert. Then carbonate phases, the mineralogy consists of interbedded cherts and siderite. This is also formed perhaps in shallow water. Third is silicate phases, which comprises iron silicates, chamosite, granulite and glaucophane. Associated minerals are magnetite, chert and siderite. Last is sulphide phases, developed under reducing conditions and comprising pyrite, carbonaceous material within argillaceous rocks. As suggested by Goldish, bulk of the iron ore formations were laid down in a comparatively short period of time. Geologically speaking, between 2600 and 1800 million years ago. BIF of Lake Superior region is perhaps the most spectacular and the largest BIF of the world, a type area where concept of this type of deposits have developed. These are to be found in many places of the world, including Labrador region of Canada, Kirovi Rog and Kursk in Russia, Pilbara in Western Australia, Brazil, South Africa, and not to be forgotten India, which has substantial portion of world's high grade, that is above 55% iron ore of this type spread over Jharkhand, Odisha, Bastar, Chhattisgarh, Karnataka, Maharashtra and Goa. Iron ores of younger age, that is Phanerozoic, are also not uncommon and are referred to as Phanerozoic ironstones and are of two types. Clinton type are named after Silurian formations of eastern USA, is typically oolitic and is found as lenses and comprises oolitic hematite, chemosite, siderite and are associated with shales and limestones and are usually of Paleozoic age. The second type is known as Minette type. These were formed in shallow basins, are generally of Mesozoic age and consist of oolitic hematite, chemosite, siderite and limonite and are associated with organic material in rich clastic sediments. Now coming to sedimentary manganese deposits, all the major manganese deposits of the world are of sedimentary or their metamorphic equivalents, and commonest ore mineral is pyrolusite, that is MnO2. In all these there are 5 categories. Number 1, volcanogenic sedimentary, where Mn ore is associated with volcanic rocks. Number 2, non-volcanogenic, which constitutes the largest deposits of the world and are similar to BIFs in their origin. Third is manganese, where distributed throughout in BFs or occurring as separate Mn rich bands in them. Fourth, manganese nodules of the ocean floor composed mainly of Mn oxide with some Fe and heavy metals like copper, nickel, cobalt, zinc among others. And the fifth, hydrothermal proper, even though they may not constitute large deposits but only enriching existing ones. Non-volcanic sedimentary types are the most important group and constitute 70% of the world's manganese deposits come under this category. They are similar to BIF in many respects but are smaller and limited in extent. There are 2 types of such deposits. In the first type, manganese ores are associated with sands, gluconitic, silts and clays in the continental shelf environment, and occasionally coal seems to have also been found with these. Among the oxides, pyrolusite and silomelane are principal ores, while deeper carbonate zone ores are manganocalcite and rhodochrosite. The world famous Indian manganese deposits of central India confined to Mansar and Lohangi formations in the districts of Balaghat, Bhandara and Mansar area are also of this category. Since their formation, a lot of leaching of alumina and silica and metamorphic and other enrichment processes have made the ores richer. The main minerals here are braunite, pyrolusite and silomelane. Total reserves are estimated to be over 150 million tons at around 45% manganese content. Separation of iron and manganese from igneous minerals and rocks and their subsequent precipitation during the sedimentary cycle has been an interesting yet enigmatic problem. There is no problem for iron, as it is far more abundant in average crustal rocks compared to manganese. Manganese is often present as solid solution in primary iron minerals, but in supergene processes, however, bring out a near complete separation of iron and manganese, which dissolve together. But since oxidation potential required to reprecipitate ferrous iron to ferric state is only 0.77 for iron, is much lower than what is required to precipitate manganese to manganic stage, which is 1.51 electron volts. Thus, iron readily gets precipitated at ferric hydroxide, while manganese remains in solution longer and is eventually precipitated when more oxidizing conditions are available. Generally, these three chalcophile metals are known to be of hydrothermal origin, but of late these are undoubtedly found in many parts of the world as sedimentary chemical precipitates. Copper, lead and zinc deposits of Kupferschiefer mine, Mansfield, Germany and Poland is one of the examples, as also Zambian and Zaire copper belt. These can be both of syngenetic or epigenetic types. Apart from base metals, there are others including fluorite, barite, as well as deposits of uranium and vanadium. Kupferschiefer deposits is of Permian age and is a typical example of stratiform deposits, since the mineralization is confined to a single bed. A stratiform is one which is like sheets or lenses lying parallel to the principal planar structure, like bedding of a host rock. Another important belt of this kind is the Central African copper belt, which is huge in dimensions, 225 to 50 kilometer area, including parts of Zambia, Zaire and Rhodesia, containing chalcocite, bornite, chalcopyrite and pyrrhotite. Somewhat related word, stratobound deposits may also hold base metals associated with margins of marine basins comprising carbonate reef rocks, carbonate rich mudstones. In this category are also included sandstone type copper uranium deposits. These sandstones are rich in organic matter and pyrite of bacterial origin. Colorado Plateau, Wyoming Basin and Texas and several countries of the world, including India in the Kadapa Basin, Andhra Pradesh, have such types of deposit. Phosphorite, or more commonly called rock phosphate, is among the three important raw materials in modern agriculture practice, the other two being nitrate and potash. It occurs in several forms of mineral apatite. Chlorine bearing apatite is called chlorapatite, while fluorapatite is fluorine bearing. While apatite of igneous rocks is easily recognized, phosphorites can look like any other common sedimentary rock, which could be limestone, sandstone or even shale. Sedimentary deposition has given rise to major phosphate deposits around the world, including the famous Phosphoria formation of USA in Utah, Idaho, Wyoming and Colorado. India too has a number of good phosphorite deposits of different ages spread over in Rajasthan, Madhya Pradesh, Uttaranchal and UP. Phosphorite is a unique sediment and its genesis has to explain a number of puzzling questions. Naturally, several scientists have put their heads together to arrive at a general consensus as to its origin. The problem is not the source of phosphorus, but those special physico-chemical conditions which precipitate such rich beds of phosphate from seawater, which hardly contains 0.3 ppm of phosphate in deep waters and less than 0.01 ppm in offshore waters. The source of phosphorus is basically what is washed down from the continental weathering of igneous and metamorphic rocks, the mineral being mostly apatite. The second source is phosphorus supplied by submarine volcanic exhalations. There is a third source, namely organic, which has contributed both to the ancient phosphorite beds and also contributes to the one formed during the modern times. Which of these have contributed the major share in different deposits will always be a source of debate. All the theories that have been suggested can be grouped into three categories. Number one is accumulation theory, number two is replacement theory, and the third is precipitation theory. Secondary enrichment, also known as supergene sulfide deposits. Most of the ore deposits, especially sulfides, when subjected to elements of weathering, experience oxidation above the water table and enrichment below it. The latter is called secondary enrichment or supergene enrichment and literally means enrichment from above. It is a very significant process which turns a poor grade primary ore into a profitably workable deposit. Many poor grade porphyry copper deposits of the world have thus turned into richer deposits this way. Even in the oxidized zone, minerals are enriched with carbonate or oxide minerals. Iron and manganese ores also get enriched by the process, but it is more a matter of removal of gangues and undesirable constituents that makes them richer, unlike enrichment of primary minerals as in case of primary sulfide deposits. We shall see now the anatomy of a supergene deposit. An original vein with disseminations of chalcopyrite. Once the process of supergene enrichment has taken place to the full, involving weathering, oxidation, solution, percolation of copper iron solutions and deposition below the water table, from top to the unaltered part below, we will have the following zone. The topmost part is known as iron hat or Gaussian. Second zone is the least zone, as elements like copper, zinc and lead have been dissolved away. Next is the enriched oxidized zone lying between the least zone and the water table, where oxide minerals like malachite, azurite, chrysocolla are precipitated. Below the water table, the chemical environment is totally different than what it was above it. Here, the conditions are reducing. Once the copper rich solutions reach here, either new and richer copper ores are formed or the primary sulfides are enriched. This zone is our prime target, the zone of secondary enrichment. Below this zone comes the primary zone, or also known as prot ore. Coming to enrichment agents and salient chemical reactions. Water, that is meteoric in origin, oxygen and carbon dioxide are the main external agents, while bacterial contribution through thiobacillus ferrioxidans is also significant. Presence of pyrite as also pyrrhotite initiates the beginning of chemical reaction by producing weak sulfuric acid when its sulfur content is dissolved to generate weak sulfuric acid. It also yields other solvents like ferric sulfate, ferric hydroxide and basic ferric sulfate. Chalcopyrite and other sulfides also regenerate ferric sulfate. Through these agents, upper part of the ore body may be oxidized and many of its metallic elements leached away down to the water table. This part is thus referred to as zone of oxidation. In the topmost zone, leftover chemical ferric hydroxide is the substance which constitutes guaiacol or iron hat. Percolating charged water with carbonated nature will precipitate secondary minerals like malachite and azurite in the zone of oxidations. Conditions below the water table, however, are reducing, and much of metal rich solutions migrating from above the water table will enrich the existing sulfide like chalcopyrite into rich sulfides like chalcocite, covellite and bornite. Below the superzine enriched part, there is the unenriched primary mineralization, which may not be of economic grade. Microbes including various kinds of bacteria, fungi, algae and protozoa are ubiquitous in the secondary environment. We cannot think of this planet as habitable and beautiful as it is today without them. Throughout the geological history, or for a greater part of it, the microbes have played a significant role in breaking down earlier rocks and minerals while forming new and useful regimes of rocks like limestone and siliceous rocks, and minerals and ores, and perhaps the most important of all, the fossil fuels. They have played vital roles in stratabound types of carbonate hosted lead zinc deposits, red bed copper and uranium and vanadium deposits, sulfur in salt domes and deposits of gypsum, sulfur and other sulfides in both terrestrial and marine environment. Sedimentary deposits of iron, manganese and phosphorus are without any doubt resulted due to the active participation of bacterial activity. Bacterial role via production of hydrogen sulfide and sulfuric acid has been instrumental in developing oxidation and supergene enrichment sulfides. It is well known that present day blue-green algae chlorella can extract gold from solutions. Bacterium Bacillus cereus is similarly capable of nucleating gold nugget from dilute solutions, much like bacteria forming iron ores. Thus, even some placer gold deposits can be of bacterial origin. Till recently, microbial activity was considered to be operative at or near the surface regions only. However, of late, subsurface microbiology has been reported to be operative even deeper, up to 3000 meters below land surface and even in hotter conditions. Bacterial activity, it has been reported from cold Arctic waters to hot springs having a temperature up to 110 degrees centigrade, from dry desert conditions to deepest oceanic bottoms. In future, you will be hearing far more involvement of microbial activity in various geological processes, including ore deposition. To summarize the whole proceedings, the three ore forming processes we have seen today are responsible for the formation of some of the world's most desirable raw materials. Iron and manganese ores are the backbone of steel and constructing industry. Sedimentary processes also generate very important source of uranium in sandstone hosted deposits, as also some of the world's richest copper, lead and zinc deposits, and of course phosphorites, the main raw material in fertilizer and chemical industries. Manganese nodules, the renewable source of manganese and a host of trace elements that is spread on the ocean sediments, will be an important source of these elements in times to come. Supergene or secondary enrichment process converts the largest yet poorer grade porphyry copper deposits or molybdenum or silver deposits into richer bodies, making them exploitable. In both these processes, the role of bacteria is now being considered very significant. Apart from many metallic ores, role of bacteria in generating coal, oil and gas is accepted without doubt. Even in ore beneficiation, leaching of low grade ores, mineral prospecting and many other applied fields, bacterial approach is gaining acceptance and becoming a routine technique.